This episode is brought to you by CoolStuffInc.com, the #1 seller of games and gaming accessories. And GatheringMagic.com, the #1 resource for Magic the Gathering news and articles.
What's up, kids? Everybody's favorite angry old man here, Angry Graybeard, and I'm about to take it to the old, incredibly old school with my general, BAM! Hazezon Tamar. Oh man, old school legends. Let me tell you, back in the day, these guys used to be the cat's meow. However, in modern Magic, they're a little more than a novelty, especially in Commander. But I still gotta represent the old school. Fortunately, Hazezon here held up pretty well over time. He kind of works like a repeatable token generator if you have a sacrifice outlet. Plus, everyone in the art has a beard, and Richard Kane Ferguson drew it. It's just pure concentrated awesomeness. Let me put on my old man glasses here to translate his ability for some of you darn kids who might not be familiar with him. When he sets up this delayed trigger ability when he enters the battlefield. So it's when he enters the battlefield, at the beginning of your next upkeep, you put X Sand Warrior tokens onto the battlefield, where X is the number of lands you control. And when he leaves the battlefield, you exile all Sand Warrior creatures, not just tokens. That's pretty cool for two reasons. Number one, there's actually a popular blink strategy with him. If you're not familiar with the term blink, it involves removing a creature from the game and having it re-enter the battlefield, like momentary blink or liberate or whatever. But anyway, that way you keep setting up his delayed trigger ability, and on your next upkeep you get like 4 triggers of that, and it's like pff, token army. Number two is kind of less useful. It does get rid of changelings, like that stupid 4/4 guy who keeps pumping himself, or I'm sorry, keeps doubling his power. I can't remember his name because I'm old, but But I like Hazezon. He's cool, he's old school. Made Sand Warrior token just because they don't exist, and he needs something to represent with. So there you go. But let me get into some of the deck here. Here's some of my non-basic lands. Oran-Rief the Vastwood. Pretty popular token fare. You put a +1/+1 counter on each green creature that entered the battlefield. Hazezon makes red, white, and green tokens. So hey, great, I get 2/2 tokens. Khalni Garden puts a 0/1 derp token onto the battlefield. Why not? It's fun. Gavony Township is pretty new. For 4 mana, you tap it, you put a +1/+1 counter on all your guys, and you just grow your token army just over time. It's good. City of Shadows is this obscure older card. I need sacrifice outlets for the deck because I'm trying to get rid of Hazezon because I don't want my Sand Warriors to get exiled. But with this, you exile one of your creatures and you put a counter on it, and then you can tap it to get X mana, X colorless mana, where X is the number of counters on it. So this is another sack outlet that's a land. I could maybe search it up, but it's pretty good. Krosan Verge is, awesome green and white card. You sack it to get a forest and a plains and a play tapped. If you're fortunate enough to have those revised dual lands or those shock lands, it could search those up, which is even better. Speaking of revised duals and shock lands, I do not have any because nobody wants my crummy old cards to trade for them, and I never had any. But I get by with the cheap enter the battlefield tap. What do you want to spend on a piece of land? 50 cents or $100? Okay. Command Tower, pretty standard. Rith's Grove, I do enjoy all the bounce lands, but this is the only one I have in the deck because I'm not trying to lower my land limit on the battlefield. But, it gives me a mana of each color. Can't argue with that. Jungle Shrine, same thing. Here's all my basics. I run 40 total land, and I still don't get consistent land drops. It's just this curse I have, despite all the mana ramp in the deck. But, I get by like I always do. In addition to Hazezon, it's pretty much a straightforward token deck. Just try and get tokens out there. I'll start with the Kazandu Tuskcaller. I'm not crazy about these level up people, but she does combo pretty well with Seedborn Muse, which is also in the deck. I know you can't level up on someone else's turn, but all she does is just tap to put a green elephant onto the battlefield, and if you're untapping her during each opponent's untap step, hey great, you get a 3/3 each turn. Same thing, works with Seedborn Muse. Plus it's just a cheap token generator because I'm trying to get stuff out there. I like my big splashy spells, and Crush of Wurm is pretty splashy. Puts 3 6/6 worm tokens on the battlefield, and it's got flashback. I like it. Bestial Menance, you get 3 tokens out of 1 card. It's really fun. I like it. Like I said, I like to have fun in my Elder Dragon Highlander games, so tough cookies. 1 Dozen Eyes is cool. If I can't entwine it, I just always get the 5/5 1 green insects, but another fun card. Rise of the Hobgoblins. I like my X token generators, and this one's really good because if you're playing someone who's counter happy, you're not forced to pay X because it actually has to enter the battlefield for you to get X Goblin Soldier tokens. And as in bonus, red and white creatures, you control get first strike, and Hazezon does make green, red, and white tokens, so hey, great, they can get the bonus too. Plus, it's goblins. Ibnation, stand up. Tolsimir Wolfblood I recently added to the deck because I realized, oh, it's other green and other white creatures get +1/+1. So she can pump up my Sand Warrior tokens to 3/3s instead of lowly 1/1s, and she makes tokens or a legendary token herself, which is technically a 4/4. But, she's worked out really well. I like her a lot. I think it's a chick, by the way. Nomads Assembly. I know a lot of people don't like it because you have to have creatures beforehand, but on you because I like to have fun, and it's rebound, and it puts a lot of tokens out there. Decree of Justice. This card just ends games out of nowhere. You got cycling instant speed soldiers for just X, and it replaces itself. And I have this 1 card Ashnod's Altar that I just sacrifice my tokens to, and usually with that I'll put out the angel tokens. If they have haste, you just take people out the game. This is my only graveyard hate card. It just removes creatures out of people's graveyards for a token. I don't know. It's just there for token purposes and to stop potential shenanigans. Hero Bladehold is bonkers. I can't get over this card. Battlecry puts tokens on the battlefield when it attacks, and it's only 4 mana. Sometimes I could drop this 4th turn, and if somebody can't deal with it, they're just dead, in a couple turns, just because there's so many tokens. If you have out Parallel Lives or Doubling Season, which I don't have, it just knocks people around. So it's something you need to deal with. Verdant Embrace, it's aura kind of like Verdant Force, +3/+3, beginning of upkeep. Beginning of each upkeep, put a green token on the battlefield. I don't care about card disadvantage. I like to have fun. My game of Magic isn't that serious. Ant Queen also works great with Seaborn Muse. She just dumps insects out there for only 2 mana, and she's a 5/5 beater, so what's not to like? Mitotic Slime is a totally goofy card. It kind of reminds me of those slimes back in the old Legend of Zelda from NES. When it dies, you get 2 green oozes, and when those die, they get replaced with 1/1 green oozes. It's really good if you run a Crush deck, but otherwise, this also works great with that Ashnod's Altar that I keep talking about. But, it is really good. I like it. It's just fun. Speaking of more fun, here's Symbiotic Wurm. When he dies, you get 7 1/1 green insects, and he's a 7/7 face smasher. So again, what's not to like? Rhys the Redeemed. You might have seen him as someone else's token general because he seems to be more popular doing that. And you might be thinking to yourself, why doesn't this old fire use Rhys the Redeemed instead of that stupid Hazezon old guy? He's so stupid. Well, this is Graybeard, son. I gotta keep it old school. I'm not gonna lie, Rhys here, he's really good. It doubles your token army, so I gotta put him in there. Avenger of Zendikar is pretty much Hazezon 2.0. They have pretty much the same ability. When he enters the battlefield, you get 0/1 derp tokens based on the number of lanes you control. And he's got that cool landfall ability, wherein I do have a lot of lanes that come and enter the battlefield. And you can just grow all your derp tokens, so he's great. I like him. Sorry if you don't like him. Rampaging Baloths, also, they got that awesome landfall where you get tokens. This combo is great with Perilous Forays that I'll show you later when I get into my land package. But, yeah, he's good. I love him. Verdant Force, he's awesome. 7/7, also face smasher, and you get a token during each upkeep. Okay. Cloudgoat Ranger. It's pretty unassuming, but I like it. You get 3 1/1 Kithkin soldier tokens when she enters play. I don't know. But I kind of killed someone once because they weren't paying attention. Important lesson, you should always read your opponent's cards. When you tap 3 Kithkin soldiers, or tap 3 Kithkin, it gets flying and +2/+0 until end of turn. So someone was just like, oh, okay, I'll have out this chump blocker so I don't die because I'm at 5 life. I'm like, oh, by the way, I give it flying and attack. And he's like, oh, I didn't know it got flying. I'm like, well, it's been out there for like 3 turns. But it's good. Parallel Evolution, I don't know, I guess this is maybe a staple in token decks, but I don't leave home without it, because it just doubles your army. Yeah, it could double someone else's army, but no, I don't really come across that many people that play tokens. I used to run with the Rith the Awakener, but that guy was like a 6-mana Swords of Plowshares magnet. I don't think I even got to attack with him, so I just cut him from the deck and never looked back. Here's some of my removal. I run a lot of spot removal because I'm not trying to draw attention to myself, and I run a lot of artifact and enchantment hate because of things like Crawl Space, Propaganda, Kushkin Falls, Silent Arbiter, you know, things like that that I just can't attack with lots of dudes. So, you know, this is destroy target artifact, get a token. Destroy target enchantment, get a token. Beast Within, I'm still in disbelief they even printed this. You know, they get a token, but destroy target permanent at instant speed. Yes, please, I'll take it. Seed Spark, hey look, more tokens. Turn to Dust, amazing card. You get to exile up to 2 artifact or enchantments if you played it during your main phase. It's incredible. Hour of Reckoning, you know, if you play tokens, you gotta use this. Austere Command is awesome because sometimes I can dodge my own token army while blowing up all the bigger creatures. Usually I'll attack on artifacts because I don't have too many, but I do have a lot of enchantments, but, you know, it's there if I need it. You may have noticed I don't run Order Shards because, I don't know, that gets like super hate drawn towards you because every time a token enters the battlefield you just blow up whatever artifact or enchantment you want. So I didn't like the amount of hate that was getting, so I just took it out, and then people kind of left me alone after that. But anyway, Martial Coup, you know, this card is just absolutely ridiculous. It wipes the board, you get tokens out of it. You know, once again, with that Ashdod's Altar that I keep talking about, you're probably like, man, what does Ashdod's Altar do? Alright, well, I'll get to that soon enough, but yeah, this is crazy if you have haste, because you can just start taking people out the game at that point, kind of like Decree of Justice. Anyway, Volcanic Wind, this is pretty fun, because it kind of scales with however many creatures are on the battlefield, and it kind of scales better since this is a multiplayer format. Deals X damage divided as I choose among any number of target creatures, so, you know, this has won me games, so I like it. There's some of my land package. I shuffle the deck a lot, so if you want to know some super secret techs, you should look up Kosi's Trickster. Every time an opponent shuffles their library, you put a +1/+1 counter on it. I've seen that thing in 3 turns go from a 1/1 to a 6/6. And if you ever want to know the secret to beating me, just run Stranglehold. I secretly call that card Stranglebeard because it just completely shuts down whatever deck I have. If you don't know what it does, it came in those Commander products, and your opponents skip their extra turns, and they can't they can't search their library. You know, that's just absolutely amazing. But anyway, let me get in some of my land ramp. You know, Primal Growth is awesome, because all I have to do is sacrifice a stupid token, and lets me get 2 basic land onto the battlefield untapped, so, okay. Hunting Wilds, it's like a 2-for-1 for forests. One time I did pay the kicker cost, and this guy was really low on health, and they had haste because I paid the kicker, so I just took him out the game, and he was like, "What? You just killed me with 2 forests?" I'm like, "Yeah, sorry." He's like, "I hate that card." You know, this is some stupid good times for Elder Dragon Highlander. I'm sure you got stories. Skyshroud Claim, you know, another 2-for-1. Primeval Titan, yeah, I know, everybody hates it, but I don't know, I need him because he's really good in here. He fetches up lands for Hazezon Tamar. He functions with landfall with things like Avenger of Zendikar and Rampaging Baloths. 6/6, Trampler, okay. What's not to like? Sorry, if you don't like him. Yavimaya Elder, technically a 3-for-1 depending on how you look at things, but old dudes with bramble beards are okay in my book. Khalni Garden Expedition, I'm just crazy about this card because it's just so much fun. You know, you drop it in landfall, you just put counters on it, so you get rewarded for putting land onto the battlefield with more land. So I'm trying to get more land anyway, so this is, I don't know, I like it. It's fun. Cultivate, technically 2-for-1. Economics Reach, you know, same thing. Explosive Diarrhea, same thing, 2-for-1. Here's some of my sack outlets. I'm going to talk about Spawning Pit for a second. If people like to wipe the board a whole lot, you can just sacrifice your creatures to this, and you put charge counters on it, and you remove 2 charge counters to put a 2/2 artifact creature token onto the battlefield. Token deck's already really resilient as it is, and with this enabling you to get a refund on your army just makes token decks even more bonkers and resilient. So this is something you should probably look into if you like tokens. I recommend it. Goblin Bombardment, sacrifice a creature, do 1 damage to any target. Okay, sure, why not? Hashnod's Altar. Alright, here we go. I can finally talk about this. So this is some old school hotness right here. I want to point out that the sacrifice is part of the cost and not the effect, but you can sacrifice a creature to get 2 colorless mana. That might not seem all that impressive, but if you got Hazezon entering the battlefield, or I'm sorry, his delayed trigger ability going off, and you get like 7 tokens from him, you know, you could sacrifice those 7 tokens for 14 mana. And since you had to have 7 land to get 7 tokens with Hazezon, that's another 7 land at your disposal. So that's 21 total mana. You know, combine that with any X token generator, or, you know, that Mitotic Slime from before, you know, you just got 14 mana out of 1 card, which is amazing. You dump that into X token thing like Decree of Justice, and if you got haste, there goes the game. So, yeah, I usually tutor for this up whenever I can, and I like it because no one pays attention to it. It's like, oh, he's just going to sacrifice creatures for mana, who cares? Oh, by the way, I get a lot of stuff. I don't do anything infinite with it. I'm not a big infinite combo player because that just makes people frown, and I don't like to make people frown like that. Martyr's Cause. I want to talk about this card for a second. If you sacrifice a creature, next time a source of your choice would deal damage to target creature or player, you prevent that damage. And what's really good about this is because a lot of people like to run Voltron strategies and Blightsteel Colossus. If you're unfamiliar with what a Voltron strategy is, it's when someone picks a general like Ural, Zur, or Kresh in most cases, load them up with equipment, auras, or other power boosting things, and just try and win through 21 points of general damage. But this just stops them outright because it doesn't target the actual source, which is great. And, you know, Infect just knocks people out the game, so, you know, sacrifice one of your numerous tokens just to prevent the damage. And even if you don't run a token deck, what would you rather do? Lose a creature or die outright? Okay, that's a pretty easy choice. So I recommend it. It's really good. Perilous Forays, like I was saying before, it works great with Rampaging Baloths, because when you sack a creature, land enters the battlefield, which triggers Rampaging Baloths again to get another token, and as long as you have untapped mana, you just keep doing that. So it works great. Plus it's a sack outlet that gets me more land for Hazezon, so it's like a double benefit. Mercy Killing, I recently added this to the deck after I heard Donovan from Commander Cast talking about it. He was saying if you have like Tolsimir Wolfblood out and the Voja token, you sack the token for 4 3/3s, and I was like, wow, you know, that's really good, because if you have other power boosters, you get more tokens, and therefore those tokens get bigger in turn. And I'm like, wow, that's like a double benefit. So it's really good, and even if you're a pinch, you know, you can make someone sacrifice their indestructible things because they're just everywhere now. You know, Blightsteel Colossus once again. So it's really good. I also recommend it. Titanic Ultimatum, also pretty straightforward. Kind of just ends games. I like it. Harry's Wake. I got the gold border one because nobody wants my crummy old cards to trade for the actual one, and I can't really find the actual version of it, but nobody really cares, and they let me rock the gold border one, so that's cool. Tangible Virtue. I used to have Murraganda Petroglyphs before Innistrad came out, and I found out if you give your tokens haste, that kind of counts as them having an ability, and therefore they don't get the +2/+2 bonus from the Petroglyphs. But for 2 less mana, they get +1/+1 in Vigilance, and Vigilance is just so good in multiplayer. I mean, you know, why would you not want to have that? So this was a no-brainer. Beastmaster Ascension, this card is awesome. You know, how hard is it to attack with 7 tokens? Oh, by the way, they just got +5/+5. Oh my god, they're huge! Oh, I hate that card. Oh. Glory Warfare. I'm not too crazy about this card, but it's just another enchantment that's like a power boost. As soon as something better comes out, I'll probably take it out. But otherwise, you know, it's whatever. In the Web of War, another card that's just nuttier than a fruitcake. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield, it gets +2/+0 in haste. You know, Hazezon, Decree of Justice, all those other things. When they die, you get tokens. What doesn't this card do, you know? It's just so good. I love it. Fire's Yavimaya, another haste option, because for my tokens to get haste is just so important, because once I have like 80 things hit the battlefield, they're like, oh wait, I better wrap the board so I don't get that token army coming my way. And it's like, oh great, there goes my whole strategy. So haste equals good. Important lesson. Parallel Lives, doubling season just got so out of control with the price that I'm so happy they printed this with just for tokens, because it just works with everything in the deck. You know, it's ridiculous. Here's some of my tutors. I I tend to run a lot of enchantment and artifact tutors because I'm not trying to combo out, but I have things that work well with one another, and I don't always draw them, so, you know, why not search for it? You know, enchantment tutor. Light and tutor gets an artifact or enchantment. I got a funny story I want to tell you guys about. Back in the day, I used to run this stupid Titania Song deck, and if you don't know what Titania Song is, I got one right here, just in case. It's this goofy enchantment back from Antiquities, and all non-creature artifacts on the battlefield lose their abilities and become artifact creatures with power and toughness equal to their casting cost. When Mirage came out for Light and Tutor, it was just such a superstar in my deck because it fished out any combo piece I needed, and I was like, wow, you know, this is like so good. The reason I'm telling you that is because, you know, at the time, everyone was coming off their demonic tutor high, and all these tutors from Mirage were just like, oh, you know, put the card that you're searching for on top of your library, and everyone was just so mad. They're like, oh, that's stupid, you know, why can't I just put it in my hand? But, you know, like I said, I'm telling you that because over time, these cards have just become so good, and, like, it's unreal. So, I don't know, I guess I kind of lucked out by getting a bunch of these tutors, and they were so innocuous back in the day. But, anyway, there's your history lesson for the day. There you go. Sterling Grove, another tutor, but protects my other enchantments. Also, it's like another enlightened tutor, or idyllic tutor. I don't know. Anyway, Eladrumi's Call. I don't know how to pronounce this. I'm old. I don't care. It's a demonic tutor for creatures. You know, it gets me Avenger of Zendikar or whatever else I need. Hero Blade Hold, something else ridiculous. Regrowth. You know, pretty straightforward. Bring something back to my hand from the graveyard. And my final card, Seaborn Muse. You know, like I said, again, it untaps like Kazandu Tuskcaller and all my other lands for like Insect Queen that just keep dumping out more tokens. It's also like a pseudo vigilance. You know, it's just really good. That's the end of my deck. You may have noticed I don't run any card draw. That's because I used to run things like Skull Clamp. You know, in my circle it's come known as Broken Clamp. As soon as I hit the battlefield, I just got a collective sad face from people, and if I didn't get the sad face, the whole board would just turn on me at once, just because they're afraid of how many cards I'd draw, even though I'd only have out 2 tokens. I don't know. I just got tired of it getting blown up. I never used it, so I just took it out the deck and never looked back. Plus, the deck also tends to want to either play the hand or the board, and at some point I want to play the board more, and things would just sit in my hand. So I just kind of cut the card draw, and I don't know, it's been working out pretty well for me since. But that was my token deck. I hope you enjoyed it. Suffer and Succotash, are you kids still here? Hurry up and get out of here. But before you go, make sure you subscribe to CMDR decks, because only Ophies don't subscribe, and you don't want to be an Ophie. Do you?